Welcome to the Warband, a World of Warcraft podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Swaglock, and with me today is our wonderful host, Chicken. Chicken, what have you been up to this week, man?
You didn't call me a co-host this time. Now you're making me feel all special.
Well, I feel like co-host is a proper term because we're co-hosting together.
Yeah, but that's fair. I don't know. Every time I hear co-host, I always think like, I'm getting downgraded a little bit. But now you call me host.
Whenever works.
Bring me down to the house.
Whenever works for you, man.
So yeah, no, it's been a good week. It's been a great week. Did 2 raids this week. Come on, how could you not like raiding twice?
I mean, I raided, I guess 3 times this week, right?
Yeah, you raided 3 times.
It was good though, because I had our guild raid, which, dude, we missed you on Ansarek prog, so we've been starting work on Ansarek.
Yeah,
this week,
Thursdays are just, oh my goodness, Thursdays are just rough. Thursday's the last day of my work week, and after working like a whole entire week, I feel like every Thursday. Well, last Thursday was different, but this Thursday I'm like, I just need a break. I just want to go to sleep. So I went to sleep at like 9 o'clock.
That makes sense.
Which is exactly when we start raid.
That makes sense, dude. We're recording on a Sunday right now, and this is like my prime time Sunday nap.
I was gonna say this is your
I'm normally napping right now, but I'm here. We're recording. It's good. It's good. But yeah, so we raided Wednesday with the guild, doing a re-clear of heroic, which, if I remember correctly, we cleared 6 of 8 bosses. I think we ended up skipping court this week, and then Thursday got started on heroic Ansarek, which has been it's a fight. I've heard it gets easier once you clear phase 1, but really? we are struggling to get out phase 1 with like most of our group alive.
Easier after phase 1?
That's what I've heard. I've heard on heroic it gets easier after phase 1 just because of the way the mechanics work out. Supposedly it's a little bit more like normal in phase 2 and 3, and so get through phase 1 and you're kind of in the clear. From what I hear other people say about heroic, I haven't made it that far yet. I've not cleared the boss on heroic. I want to do it with the guild, so I'm not pugging it or anything. And it's been good though. We've had a lot of great luck with it.
Yeah,
we're gonna continue. Well, we're continuing this Wednesday, so flipping our normal schedule just because Halloween's going on. So Thursday night is a little different. People are gonna be busy.
Halloween.
And then Friday, yeah, dude. So Friday was awesome actually. So we did a kind of a community raid for our listeners and our viewers to be a part of, but also opened up the doors through the group finder. I like to open up and post a group finder listing because they really are like learner kind of raids, right? There's good raids to learn in, and there's a lot of players in WoW who are looking for an opportunity to learn raid mechanics, learn the fights, and not be trashed the whole time. Because have you ever gone into like a normal raid and you get in there and it is very clear that these guys have like all cleared this raid like multiple times on their mains, and so they don't want anybody who doesn't know the fights. They just want to do the fastest run through here just to get results. And it's miserable.
It's the description is literally just fast.
Yeah, right. If you don't have cutting edge, you can't join this normal raid. However, and by the way, though, selfishly, those are the raids I like to be in myself because, again, when I have an alt, I know the fights already. I just want to go and get the kills fast, get the loot, and move on. I don't have that much time in my day to like sit and wait and go through mechanics with everybody and try fights multiple times. However, for the live stream on Friday, I wanted to do that. I wanted to create an opportunity for people to learn the game and experience raiding in a safe environment. And so, yeah, we opened up the doors and said, hey, look, our community's here, but we have a bunch of extra spots. If anybody wants to join in, we posted a listing. And even in the listing, I said, like, learner friendly. We'll go over mechanics. And so we got a few people signing up, and I pulled them in. And it was just a wonderful time. Everybody's attitudes were great. I felt bad. People were apologizing for messing up. I'm like, whoa, don't apologize. It's all good. Like, that's the whole point of this is for you to just learn these fights.
Yeah, it was really good. Did you end up completing the whole raid? I had to bounce out a little early, but
yeah. So we were originally, I think my plan was to wrap up at 11:30 ish, right? Just to kind of unwind afterwards. I can only raid for so long before my brain starts to turn to mush. But we were getting so close on Queen that we were just like, okay, we've made it to phase 3. Let's give it another pull because again, we got to phase 3 and we only wiped because we hadn't actually seen the mechanic, and so the other tank got a little confused. And so this time we saw the mechanic, we knew what to do, and we're like, let's give it another pull. So I want to say we actually wrapped up maybe roughly around midnight. But we got the whole raid done. Whole raid was done.
Yeah,
pretty proud of them all. I think that was technically my first kill on normal and Surek, which sounds wild.
Geez.
Which sounds wild, but I just had.
Wild.
But again, that was also my first time actually trying Ansurek on normal. I've just been working on heroic, so
yeah, dude.
I'm a weirdo, normal. I guess. Yeah, I just skipped normal, and I haven't really had a lot of time to just go and like pug it. I think maybe my old schedule may have been different, where I had a lot of free time, so I'd pug raid like 4 nights a week or something. But not when I'm doing. Dude, that's how I end up in the guild where you and I are both in now.
Oh, that's right.
I was raiding with another guild and just joining this one on a looking for a raid group finder or something. And now I'm stuck.
Now you're stuck. Yeah, no, I now that you're saying this out loud, I'm thinking like, oh great, I'm gonna have to pug heroic raid because I want to get the vault slots. So figure it out.
Yep.
Because there's just trinkets and good stuff in the raid, man. I need those 3 vault slots.
They are good. They're super helpful. Well, I think you're a little bit different than me when it comes to raid, right? Because like, if I go in now, I'll probably because this week we're going right to Queen. I'll probably take my DK through normal or even LFR. I don't even care. But I'll probably take it through something just so I can get that stat or the percentage buff, right? So there's another 2%.
Right.
I think we get another 2% this week, if I recall correctly. Although my character's kind of behind, so I don't know. I don't know how it works out.
Definitely behind, dude.
But I don't I don't necessarily care as much about the gear for me, if that makes sense. Like, gear's good and it's important, but I don't usually jump into raid to try and get like vault slots or anything. Especially because at this point, I think most of my vault slots I'm taking from like plus 10s.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense.
Yeah. However, I do want that percentage. But most of the time for me, like, I think you and I are different in the sense where, like, if we had the option, like, again, this week is a prime example, right? Wednesday's gonna be our main raid night. Thursday we're probably gonna do Black Rock Depths or something. Or Thursday we're gonna do Black Rock Depths. Wednesday is our main raid night this week. And so we're gonna just work on progging through Queen some more and see where we get. But I think if you had the choice, you would probably choose, hey, can we just start like at the beginning and like kill everything and see if I can get some more vault slots or those drops I'm looking for.
Yeah, it's really, there's like 2 bosses that I'm like, hey, maybe we should just kill these quick because they do give good loot. And maybe if I can convince you and a couple other people, maybe we can actually do that. It's I don't even know. Is it Brood? It's not Brood, is it?
Maybe it might be Brood.
I say Eggs and Princess. Like those 2 bosses give really good loot, and in terms they give 2 really good trinkets.
Yeah, and the worry though is the amount of time it takes to down them, right? Because like I think
does.
Princess for us is still like a half hour.
Oh yeah, that's
fair.
Fight. That's fair.
Which listen. We got people who listen to our podcast who raid with us, so I'm not gonna say too much. All I'm gonna say is, guys, listen. If you raid with us,
oh my gosh,
watch those mechanics, man. Oh my gosh, take your lines out, take the balls out.
This guy creates a weak aura because people aren't listening.
I'm kind of proud of myself for like loosely learning a little bit. Like I know surface level weak aura. I'm not that good.
Dude, I tried to mess with it and I just couldn't get it. So maybe I'm just not doing it right. Maybe I'll have to have you show me one of these days.
Yeah, I can show you sometime. I don't do any coding I don't do any of the Lewis stuff. Maybe one day, but for now I don't.
Oh, see, maybe I just need to Google how to do that stuff because I was trying to make a weak aura when we were struggling with what's it called, the boss from Dawnbreaker, and people were like struggling to know which way the lines go because it's not easy. Like it's not. And I was gonna try to make a weak aura to tell you which way to go. And I just couldn't figure it out. I was like, this is just weird.
But the mechanic itself tells you which way to go, right?
It's kind of iffy, and I think we were struggling at first just because we never seen it. But now that we're a little bit further into the raid and we've done it a few more times, we feel more comfortable. But for new people, I don't know, man, might help.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. I think what's tough too is that's one of those mechanics where you have to see it first, right? And once you know it, it gets really easy. I will say though, because if you want to make that weak auras, my gut tells me it's probably a debuff it puts on you that like puts the line down. And then there's
I don't know.
probably 2 debuffs with the exact same name but slightly different IDs that that represent each line, right? A left or a right line.
Yeah.
Per se. And so you would need to figure out exactly which IDs represent which lines and then have it trigger off of that debuff. Like the specific ID for that debuff. That's what I'm thinking. But
That
again,
makes sense.
I've not had to make a weak that was that complex.
Yeah.
In terms of at least like looking in depth into like ID numbers for abilities. So I don't know. I'm just guessing. Nobody take my word for it. But if somebody makes a weak order that does that and I'm right, post in Discord, please.
Yeah, no, that's neat. I might mess with it just because I think it's helpful, especially when you're just like in raid. And I mean, let's be honest, we all get like that tunnel vision. We're just trying to, max out our damage. We want to, we're in that zone, and we want to get our rotation down real quick before we try to do something mechanic wise. And I think it just helps, like a visual thing that just comes up on your screen that says, "Hey, move left," and you're like, "Okay."
Yep,
That's pretty
totally
easy.
Totally makes sense. All right,
So,
I want to change. I want to change topics. I want to change topics real quick because it's on my mind. Every week, dude. Every week, you bring these hot takes. You bring these hot takes in, and you're like, "Chicken's hot take," and then we like argue about it. Then we argue about it. I got a hot take. After this week, here's my hot take, and it's a spicy one, dude. This is a spicy, like flaming hot Cheetos hot take right here. I think Mythic Plus is a lot of fun right now.
Yeah, I could see that.
I mean, like, I think Mythic Plus is, dude, I was doing M Plus this week, and I was just having the most fun in keys I've had in, like 2 seasons, probably.
Yeah, I think, I was thinking, I ran a dungeon just a little bit ago, and I don't remember why, but I was in blood, I think.
Okay.
And for some reason, I was like, I don't remember what I did.
Did you see the blood buffs for Tuesday?
Oh, no, I didn't. I'll have to look at those.
Yeah.
But I was like, maybe I should just try DPS in a key. And I did. And I felt really good. Like, I feel like I did really good. I, like, overall, like, over 1 million. Mm-hmm. And I was like, maybe I should just start DPSing keys again. Because I was like, I don't know. Blood is just in a weird spot right now. And I originally started doing blood because no one was taking unholies to keys in Dragonflight. There's just no way. So, and I know your thing is always like, oh, run your own key. But the thing is, no one was even joining my keys either.
Well,
so
yeah, so you got 2 things going for you right now, right? Like, one, you have your own key, so you can run that. But yeah. me not being a butthole for a second, Frost DK is like, when I see a Frost DK sign up for my group, boom, instant invite. I'm not even thinking about it. Invited right there on the spot.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. And I think maybe that's what they were doing, but then they're like, oh, this guy's unholy. We can't kick him. Oh, no. But I mean, I fared out pretty good, I think. Like,
yeah. Well, Unholy's not in a terrible spot either from what I've seen, right?
No, I mean, I think I was like the top. No, I was right below this hunter that was like 1.1 mil overall. And I was like, I mean, I feel pretty good about this. Yeah.
So let me read you some patch notes for Death Knights this week. Specifically,
wow, you're
Blood
reading
DK.
the patch notes.
Blood DK, right? Blood Boils increased by 15%. Heart Strike increased by 20%. Blood Plague increased by 10%. Death Strike damage increased by 20%. And then like a ton of buffs to Sand Lane stuff. I would not be surprised if in a patch or 2 with more and more, we keep getting buffs to Sand Lane. We're seeing a lot of buffs to Sand Lane. Yeah. I would not be surprised if or even next season, if Sand Lane was just like goated, because you can tell they're trying to do something with it and they're not trying to go too far. And I'm gonna be honest, I like Sand Lane more. I will always lean towards a build on Blood DK that gives me more survivability. Damage is great. I love damage. I'm taking Deathbringer right now just because it gives damage and that's what everybody wants.
Everyone wants it.
I like surviving more. I like bigger pools. I like doing crazier things. And so yeah, man, a good Sand Lane would make me really happy. So
yeah,
but looks like we're getting some big buffs to Blood DK, which you'll feel good. But yeah, even to your conversation about running your own key or playing Frost, man, I think the trick has been like I've historically been a pretty big advocate for pugging dungeons, right? Like
Mhm.
I actually get really frustrated. I get really frustrated when, and we've had it. It has not happened recently, but in the past, I've been in guilds or had people even in the guild right now where their attitude is always like, "Hey man, I'm upset because nobody's taking me through the content I want to do." And that always rubs me the wrong way because I'm like, no, it's your responsibility to do that content, not my
Yeah.
responsibility to do that content for you. And so I've historically been a really big advocate for pugging your own, like pugging keys, whether it's your own key or
Dude,
getting into
heck
groups with
yeah.
other people, whatever works. But I've always been this huge advocate of like, hey, run with your friends when they're available, but also like pug, get good, like play,
Yeah, dude.
practice. And now
Yeah, I
I'm
think
kind of
that's
hitting a
hard,
point this
man.
season though where like I don't really enjoy pugging. I'll pug 1 or 2 slots in a group, but I'm at
Yeah.
this point like I'm pretty much almost always going in with like mostly pre-made groups, and dude, it's a blast. It is literally
Mhm.
so much more fun than I've had in a couple seasons because the dungeons are difficult. Like they're difficult
They are.
dungeons. There's a lot of mechanics going on, but the moment you're in VC with 4 other people and you're calling everything out, and suddenly the mechanics are being handled, right? Like you're because the problem is
Oh
when
my
you're
goodness,
pugging,
dude.
dude. How many times have you like done something when you're pugging, right? It's the affix this week. What's the affix? The orbs come down and you have to like interrupt them
You
in
have
order
to
to
interrupt them. Yeah,
right
yeah. Oh,
knock them around.
Ascension.
Ascension, right? Which, by the way, I like Ascension. I haven't heard too many
I think
people
it's
say
the
they
best
like it.
one.
I haven't heard too many people
Best
say
one.
they like it or dislike it. But this, I think I love it because it's just easy to handle. Like there's so many classes that
Best
can
one, dude.
knock them out
Easy.
fast. Yeah, so easy. Free stat. It's free stat.
By far. Oh yeah,
But
dude.
but how many times this
It's
week
free.
have you gone to like? I know you play Blood a bit. Pop like a Gorfiend's grasp to grab them all at the exact same time somebody else threw something down, and you're like,
Yeah.
ah, dang it! Like
That
that's
one's kinda
both are
rough,
cool.
yeah.
Both are cooldowns, right? And that's a really minor example. That's a very minor example.
It is, yeah.
But man,
It's definitely happened.
but like there's so many moments in keys where like either things aren't being handled or people are wasting the same CD trying to take care of the same problem. Now that I'm running in these groups, because there's so many things that have to be handled, it's just not as pug friendly as it once was, which is a bummer, right?
No, it's
bums me.
not.
It bums me out that like other players can't have the experience that I'm having right now, but I am
Yeah.
having a blast. Like it is so freaking
Yeah.
fun.
No, it. I think you're on par with that. And to be honest, I'm like your example of groups. Like I literally never run with people ever. Like
Yeah.
I always pug and like it's been rough, but I think you're on track. And how do you get there when you don't have a lot of friends that play the game? Just find a guild or run. If you find a group, the thing that I like, if you find a group of pugs that you like and that you really click with, even if like, and it's kind of hard to do this, like if you're not like, I'm not trying to call people out, but like if you're not very good at the game and you're like, hey, I'm in a really good group and these people are good, like they should just carry me all the time. Yeah, like that's kind of rough. But if you're in a group and you're like, oh, everyone's like doing really well, everyone's handing mechanics, dude, just say like, hey, can we run this, like the key that you just got?
Yeah.
And most people, if they're running stuff and you're not bad, they're going to say, yeah.
If a run goes well, if a run goes really smooth, people want to do more. Like,
yeah. Oh,
like
goodness,
if you and I pugged a group, right? Let's say it was a +8, right? And the run went beautifully, right? Like super smooth, like one death maybe, right? And then let's say we +2 it even, right? That's extreme, right? Let's say we +2 it as like an extreme. Now it's a +10. Traditionally, if I run an 8, I don't want to run that same group, right? Like I'm thinking of different groups, right? Like if I'm making a group for an 8, I'm not having the same expectations as if I'm making a group for a 10. That's a two key difference, but still, that's a big enough difference. I'm not running the same group. However, if I run a really smooth 8 and everybody's handling mechanics, everybody's doing their stuff, heck yeah, I'll take that exact same group into a 10 now, right? Because I know that they'll handle mechanics. Maybe their damage output won't be as great as the like 10 eye level higher other guy who could come along, but you're taking a risk at that point, right? Like you're taking a risk that like that other person you bring that has the better rating or the better stats, maybe they don't know the mechanics. Maybe they just got lucky they got there. You and I both know a lot of people who like maybe don't handle. I've been in a lot of dungeons where I see great rating and I'm like, oh, this is amazing. Let me bring them in. we get into the dungeon, and all of a sudden, like, they don't do any mechanics, they don't know anything, they struggle, the damage is low, and I'm like, and I talk to him, and I'm like, man, dude, your rating's so high, like, how'd you get your rating up there? Give me some pointers. And you just quickly find out, like, oh, they just run dungeons all day long every day and get lucky that groups get in, but they're not growing, right? Like, and the trick is, Chicken, you kind of mentioned, right? Like, sometimes you're bad and you have to get good. I think we use that get good as like a kind of an insult sometimes. Like,
do better.
I've said to people where they've been like, I just can't do this. I'm like, well, then get good, right? Like, and sometimes you say sarcastically and it's kind of mean, and maybe you shouldn't do that, but there is a level of truth to that statement in the terms of like, what you do is up to you, right? Like, it is your choice. If I wanted to, Chicken, I could go start running 14s. If I really, really wanted to, I just know I don't want to put the work in to get to that level. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That does not appeal to me right now. That does not seem interesting to me right now. Maybe one day it will. Maybe one day it will, but it'll take a lot of time. It'll take a lot of research, a lot of practice, right? 10s make me happy. I'm pretty good. Like 10s. Staying that 10s realm, right? Gives me portals, gives me loot. Like, I'm cool. I'm happy there. It's challenging enough that it's still fun to me. Maybe one day 10s will no longer be fun. I don't know. However, there is a degree where your success is on you. It's completely on you. It's not on the people around you. Maybe you'll have one bad dungeon. Maybe you got one bad dungeon, two bad dungeons, whatever. Sometimes you'll get a rough group. But ultimately, your success is completely and utterly on you. And there's multiple ways that it's on you. Man, I'm ranting. I love ranting on this podcast.
Dude, you are a ranter, man. There's nothing you like talking about more than WoW.
Yeah. However, right, like, the things that are on you, right, like, you getting gear is on you, right? Like, yeah, cool stuff doesn't drop all the time. It's a little random. But again, it evens out when you put in the grand scheme of, like, okay, well, I ran 15 dungeons this week, and I made sure I got my vault slots, and I did all these things. Perfect. Like, you're making sure you're getting gear, right? Gear is on you. Learning mechanics is on you, right? Like, learning how to handle mechanics, different dungeons. And it's not just going like, oh, I know the boss mechanics. But it's going like, oh, I know every necessary trash pull in these dungeons, what they're going to do, what needs to be kicked, because that changes the game tremendously.
Oh, my goodness.
Right? That's a massive game changer, right? Being aware of things you can do to help out the other players in your group, right? There's a huge difference. So I had Zari with me this week, right? Running some keys, because they just haven't done as much this season. They've had some really rough experiences in groups, and they've historically been my healer in keys. And so I'm like, no, this person's an amazing healer. They're phenomenal at what they do, but they're like terrified to do dungeons right now. And they really don't feel like they can do anything more than like a 3, right? They're just like, I can't do anything more than a 3. This is like a rough, like, I just can't heal this season. And that set something off in me, because I'm like, no, I know you can heal. So what's going on? So I pulled together a group of players who are very good at dungeons, coordinated the group, and we took her +3 key, and we just started running him. And it's a +10 now. No problem. She had no problem in dungeons. Why? Because we had DPS that were using their defenses, that were removing debuffs as they could remove them, right? That were handling mechanics that weren't standing in crap the whole time, right?
Oh my gosh,
and so,
dude.
like, all of a sudden, like, they had no problem healing because the DPS were also doing their part, right? So all of these things, right? And then your damage output, right? Like, learning your rotations and being flexible to change, right? Like, I know, Chicken, you're really good at this, of like checking through patch notes, seeing changes to what's more effective now, what works better. Like, I love the way you think about rotations and stuff is so much more brilliant than I could ever think about. That's why I tank, dude. I'm not smart enough to DPS. Tanks get all the credit because people need us and there's not many of us. But like,
that's fair.
That's because people who play WoW are generally on the smarter side, and those of us who aren't play tanks.
Oh my gosh!
And so, yeah, it just having a good group that's coordinated turns what was a crappy experience in Pugs into just like a really, really fun experience. Anyways, I ranted a ton. I'm sorry about that, but that's my hot take. I think dungeons are fun.
Yeah, they're not bad. They're still. It's kind of weird. I think, if you want me to be honest, I think part of it is just people coming back to the game that haven't played in a while, and they just think they're better than they are in Pugs. Like, it's rough. Like I was in this Dawnbreaker, and this guy's like, he literally died the most out of anyone in the dungeon, and you know, he's setting off the whole time. He's like, "Oh, you guys suck! Like, this is the worst key I've ever run." Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Hey, people screwed up the key. There's definitely things that didn't go right.
Yeah.
And this guy died the most, and he was on the bottom of the DPS charts. And I'm like, dude, you died literally more than anyone else.
Yeah.
And his response was, that was unavoidable damage. And
yeah,
I'm like,
it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way.
What?
Yeah.
What do you mean it's unavoidable? If it was unavoidable damage, then we would all have died as many times as you did.
Yep.
And it's just the logic of like,
dude, that's where I start to get really sarcastic. I just respond back, then avoid it.
Yeah, that's why I should have. But he had already left the party at that point.
Yeah, because he knew what he said.
Like,
He knew what he said was stupid.
Yeah, he was like, yeah. I had to like say it through like just he hadn't like portaled out yet. I had to just say it through through regular and
slash say.
Yeah. And dude. So I feel like I'll get to where you are at some point, but I don't know. I'm weird about playing with people I actually know. So
keys with me, man. This is the first season you and I can justify ourselves running keys together, because I'm already taking Frost DKs. The real question is if you want to run with the Blood DK.
Yeah, I don't know. I just ran with a Prot Pally, which are supposed to be really garbage too. And
no,
really
Prot's
well.
good now. Prot's good now. It was Garbo at the start of the season, and then they've been like kind of shadow buffing it and slowly like buffing it each week. No, Prot Pally's good now. Remember, dude, I was dunking on Prot Pallies at the start of the season, but Prot Pally's good. I think Paladin will always be good. And what I mean by that is like Paladin is way too.
Dude, too many people play Paladin.
Way too many people play Paladin. Yeah, way too many people play Paladin for Paladin not to be a good class for all specs. Holy's the one iffy one, because Holy Pally is probably the most complex of the Paladin specs, right? Yeah. Red is a little complex in rotation at first when you learn it, but it feels easy. Like Red feels good to play. It's not like playing like Boomkin or something. It feels good to play right off the start, or Rogue or whatever. Prot Paladin, as far as tanks go, Prot Paladin is actually probably one of my favorite tanks to play in just terms of like, it feels rewarding, dude. You smack Divine Toll and all of a sudden shields fly everywhere and pull everything for you, or interrupt every cast going on, and that's a lot of fun. So, I don't remember where I'm going with this right now, but anyways, I just think it's like kind of like Mage, right? Like there will always be a good Mage spec, always be a good Mage spec. It's kind of like that.
I agree.
Too many people play it; it can't be bad.
No, I agree.
Mm-hmm. All right, but Chicken, what is actually on our list of things to talk about today?
So, I want to talk about just the patch in general, and just what your initial thoughts are on the 0.5 patch.
Have you done any of the not the raid, but just the anniversary stuff in general?
No, to be honest, I haven't. Like, I just haven't. I don't know. I'm not necessarily big on like that kind of content. Yeah. So I didn't really do it.
Yeah. So I've seen so many cool things. I've seen so many cool rewards. Like, I want the stuff, dude. I want the stuff. And I went over there, and let me be honest with you. I love Mythic Plus. I love raiding. Dude, I'm the raid leader this season for our guild of like 25 raiders right now. Every week, researching bosses, writing down mechanics, explaining fights, helping players improve on their skills and what's causing trouble for them, reaching out to people every week. And yet I can't figure out how an anniversary event works. World quests never make sense. And I don't know why. I don't know. They just don't click. They don't click in my head. And I literally just walk around that place. I probably just need to pick up one quest at a time and be like, okay, let me go do this quest. But I think it's my ADHD. I just see too many things. So I pick up a quest and then go get distracted by something else.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not huge on the anniversary events and like that kind of content. So
that makes sense.
I haven't really messed with it yet. Maybe one at a time. You're right. There is some cool like cosmetics and stuff, but
don't you want the Shadowlands Enthusiast title though?
Really. Oh, what?
The Shadowlands Enthusiast title.
I didn't see that, no.
Yeah, there's a title called Shadowlands Enthusiast.
Huh.
Yep. And I know you're a big enthusiast of the Shadowlands.
What do you have to do to get it?
I think you just go talk to somebody at the
Oh
anniversary
my
event.
gosh.
But so I definitely want to sit down. Luckily, I think we have till January 6th. So I definitely want to sit down and like actually kind of go through the stuff. I need to use some of my vacation days before January hits as well. So maybe I'll just have like a nice day to sip on some hot chocolate while it's cold outside and like go through the anniversary stuff and figure it out. But I do want to get the rewards. I really want to get the Death Knight tier set, the Monk tier set. I don't know if there's any others. Maybe the Paladin one. They all look good. Paladin one would probably be one I'd want.
Hey, you brought up a very good date, actually, January 6th, because that is actually the last day that you can purchase the Bronchosaurus mount.
Oh, the Brutosaur, yeah.
They're the Brutosaurus.
Was it the Gilded Brutosaur?
Yeah, what is it? I just call it the Brutosaurus. Mm-hmm. I think that's what people were calling it.
Yeah,
because
so it's the Gilded Brutosaur, technically, yeah.
So, and I think we'll come back to Blackrock and just I haven't done it, so it'll be mostly your thoughts.
Okay.
But this big release of the Brutosaurus.
Yeah.
And just the logic behind it and why they did it. So if you're not familiar, and correct me if I'm wrong, there's a very similar mount. It's basically it's a mount with an auction house on it.
Yep.
And that one was released in BFA?
Yes, it was released in BFA for a short period of time. And then the developers removed it because, according to the developers, they felt like it was too game breaking.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And now, 5 years later, maybe?
Yep.
They decided to bring it back in the form of this actually worldly, not in-game currency, worldly currency, shop, right?
Yep.
It's not in your WoW shop. You can't spend gold on it. I think you can, from what I'm reading, actually, you can sell it on the auction house.
No. So what people are doing, we have a few guild members who have done this. You can buy WoW tokens with gold, right?
Okay.
And then use those WoW tokens to buy the Brutosaur mount.
Oh, gotcha.
Yep.
I see what you're saying. So I could buy a WoW token, and that's worth $25 in the in-game shop or something?
Yeah, $15-$20, I think.
Yeah, and then you can use that to buy it. Because along with that, we're seeing an increase in the price of WoW tokens, actually.
Well, that's because they ran out. They ran out of WoW tokens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
you would go to the auction house because we had, again, guild members trying to buy the mount with gold, not cash.
Yeah.
Right? And they were going to the auction house, and the auction house was like, "Hey, there's no more WoW tokens."
Yeah.
And I think WoW tokens for a second hit 450,000 gold, and I really wish I was online when that happened because I probably would have copped maybe one or two.
Dude, I would have totally copped them.
Yeah, for that price. Oh, heck yeah.
Granted, I don't think we're out of the wind. I think they'll still go up a little bit. I think they're like 275 right now.
Okay, so they came back down a little bit, but yeah.
Which they definitely came back down, but I could see them going back up as people start to save up that gold to get them again.
Yeah,
I think they'll come back up.
It's always possible too that Blizzard's artificially keeping the price of them down.
Well, that's true.
Because so many people are wanting to buy this mount. That's actually kind of part of my theory of why the mount actually was removed the first time.
Oh, because people were spending too much actual currency to get them in game?
Yeah, so because originally they were, what was it, 5 million or 10 million?
It was something stupid, yeah. It was a lot. It wasn't something that the average person would just have. 100,000 gold is what I would consider
Okay, so it was 5 million.
Not very much.
It was 5 million, right?
Yeah, which is absurd.
Mm-hmm. So 5 million gold. What are WoW tokens going for right now?
275-ish. 275-ish, yeah.
Right, so we take 275,000 gold, right? Or we take 5 million, right? 5 million gold. I'm just doing math right here. I'm not as smart as you are. Divided by 275,000.
I think it would roughly be like 12 tokens, probably.
You have to buy 18 tokens.
18.
Right?
Oh,
so then, like,
you're
18
right,
times 20, you're getting $360, right? So that would make a $360 mount, right?
Dude, that's crazy.
That's insane. That is nutty. And so part of my theory, I think there's two things that are happening. It's one or the other, right? It could be a mix of both. It could be a mix of both, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Probably is a mix of both. But the two things that are happening is, one, I do think the developers looked at the game and were like, hey, players aren't going to the cities because they have an auction house. They can summon a mailbox toy. They can use a mount to do any repairs, to do any transmog. Why would they ever need to go to the capital again? Fair point. Good question.
It is very fair.
I will say though, they did kind of, and this is important to know, they did kind of fix some of that. While the auction house is not available, or is available on the mount, there is no mount for the trading post, and there is no mount for the artisan thing, the professions. What's that called?
Oh, right. Yes. Yeah.
What's it called?
I know what you're talking about.
But yeah, you can buy gear from crafters, right? There's no mount available for that, and you can't do that in your garrisons either. So that there are reasons still, and world quests and stuff for players to show up to capital cities right now. So Blizzard might have felt like that wasn't as big of a deal as maybe it once was. And the mailbox, because the Gilded Brutosaur has a mailbox on it. The original Brutosaur does not have a mailbox.
Yeah.
However, so many people have the stamp whistle. Yeah, some people have like the stamp whistle and other stuff. So
yeah. So
like it's already available. So why not just put it on there? That's not a big deal.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So that's the one piece. The one piece that I think is a play is like, was it game breaking? Maybe at the time. Maybe it's not as bad now. Maybe Blizzard just wants the cash grab and they don't care, right? Like, it's possible Blizzard's like, we need the money. We don't care. Probably a mix of all of it. The other piece, the second piece of this is that people were spending, according to the numbers we just did, between 300 and 400,000, or 300 and 400, not thousand, $300 $400, right? $300 to $400 on the original Brutosaur mount, because every single person I've ever talked to that has the Brutosaur mount is like, oh yeah, I went and bought a crap ton of WoW tokens.
Yeah, and that's like, oh my goodness.
Not a single person was like, I just happen to have 5 million gold in my bank back in BFA.
Yeah.
In BFA,
how many
right?
Have that? Yeah.
So
right. Oh my goodness.
that kind of like, there's probably an element where Blizzard was like, frick, this mount makes people feel like they have to spend nearly $400,
which is not good.
Which is not a good perception. So
it's
$90
bucks.
$90 isn't terrible in comparison to like 400. I still feel like it's a hair on the high side, but again, it's a limited release. I've spent much more in other games for dumber things. So
you've spent no. Okay, no. Look at me through the computer monitor at my invisible face and tell me you've spent more than $90 on, and I won't call it cosmetic. How I've been referring to it as cosmetic plus, because in no way does it make you better at the game. It does give you a slight
It does make life a
advantage.
Little bit easier. Makes life a little easier.
It gives you a slight convenience advantage. Well, no, not a slight convenience advantage. It gives you a convenient advantage.
Yeah.
And in no way does it make you any better at the game than it would me, because you did buy it and I didn't buy it.
I will, and let me just clarify too. Purchasing this item, even though it can be purchased with cash, can still also be purchased technically with gold as well. So any item that shows up in the Blizzard store can also be purchased with in-game gold. It's a little trickier to do, but still totally doable, which is one thing I give them some credit for.
It sounds like around $1 million gold.
I want to say I've spent more on like a Valorant skin pack.
Oh, okay, that might be fair. Valorant skin packs are stupid expensive.
Yeah.
Okay, but still,
but here's the thing though. I don't play Valorant anymore. I played Valorant for a short period of time, maybe like for a year. I played Valorant, right? However, on the flip side, I've played WoW for like 18 years on and off, and I know I probably have a good another 5-6 years on WoW, right? Like, I've got time.
5 or 6.
Yeah, I've got time, dude. I gotta make it through. I gotta make it through this trilogy we're in right now,
bro. Dude. You're gonna play freaking WoW until the day you die.
Yeah, dude. Well, I mean, I'm just saying minimal. Minimally estimate, right? Like 5-6 years. I hope more, but we'll see.
What's your over under on WoW? Actually, one of our good friends asked me what gave me their over under on you on WoW, and I was like, I don't know. I think that's under, but
okay. Like how much more time I have left on before I'm bored of WoW?
No. How much money you've spent on WoW in your entire lifetime? He said, well, I don't want to say that. I won't say the number just because that might be a little too personal.
Yeah.
So, but
probably. Well, because here's the problem with WoW, though, right? Like every other game, I can be like, oh, too much, right? Like Fortnite, dude. Yeah, too much. I've spent too much on Fortnite. Valorant, definitely too much, right? Fortnite, you kind of had the excuse of like I was making content and stuff, but I wasn't really making money off that content at that time.
Yeah.
But WoW, I would say to me was much more justified in what I've paid to play WoW, because again, I play it more than I watch any of my subscription services I have for like Netflix or
that's
Hulu
fair,
or anything else, right? Or Crunchyroll. So I play WoW more. I enjoy it. It's fun. So everything I've paid into WoW was mostly for the ability to play it, and then occasionally just because I saw something cool and I wanted it. And sometimes I'll buy gold because it just I want and when I say buy gold, Blizzard, I'm buying it from you. Don't worry. I'm not J-Robbing. I'm not J-Robbing over here with his 2-week ban. However, for me, it is like I do like the convenience of saying like I'd rather just work an hour at my actual job, and buy gold and have some left over, than have to go and farm for like 4 hours in WoW.
You'd never make that much gold in an hour.
No, never.
In WoW, no way, not even close.
No, our guildmaster though has this like strat that she uses for. I think she like buys meat and then like cuts it and puts it back on the auction house or something. I don't know what she does. But like she'll do it like in like work meetings. She'll just like place the request or something. I don't know how it works. But
interesting.
But that's not me. I can't do that. So it is So probably a lot though, right? Are you talking about like sub as well, like sub cost?
Yeah. Like in general, yeah.
Oh gosh, a lot. But you have to remember that's a lot spread out over like 8-10 years.
Oh yeah, it
years,
is.
Right. So. It's hard to say.
No, it is. So, what's your overall final thought on the mount? Like, do you think it's good? Do you think it's bad? What is your final thought?
Well, it's hard to tell. There's a lot of good and a lot of bad. I like it. I like having it. I'm happy that I have it. This mount makes me happy. Okay, so that's first and foremost. With that said, I'm a very logical person, and so I do always worry. I short term, even though I'm mad ADHD, and so I thrive on short term reward. Mm-hmm. I do also logically really worry about short term reward clouding long term success. Yeah, and so, the problem is the Brutosaur on Blizzard End was a win. It was a win. It was 100%. An absolute win. And no matter how much negativity they get for it, it's a win. Why? Because everybody and their mom bought one. Now, granted, I am on didmyhusbandbuybruto.com right now, and it says that you did not buy one. So you are actually in the clear. Not. You are in the clear.
I told you I didn't buy it.
I'm going to send this link to Katie so she can keep checking, make sure
my goodness.
However,
you're trying to give me trouble. You're trying to get me in trouble later.
However, with that said, the problem is like it's a big win for Blizzard. If they continue doing this, I think it's a rabbit hole that will be horrible for WoW.
Yes, I agree.
If and sorry, I know I'm interrupting you, but if this doesn't ever happen again, if we look back and we're like, oh yeah, you remember that one time for the 20th anniversary when Blizzard did like put out that crazy mount to celebrate 20 years? You know what? That'd be sick. That would be so freaking cool. Everybody would be like, yeah, dude, we remember that. We got that mount. Like, it was expensive, but we were just excited that this game has been around so long and we've played it for most of those years or something, right? Mm-hmm. Then cool. Like, that's awesome. Do I think that's going to be how it is? Probably not. Probably not. And I think that's what scares me.
I mean, how many times have they done something similar to this, where they've released something and said, "Hey, that wasn't good," and then later they're like, "Actually, we're gonna release it again."
Yeah. Now, the worst possible move they can make. And if this happens, I'm gonna say I told you so, but I really hope it doesn't happen.
Oh my goodness!
I really hope it doesn't happen.
I'm gonna say I told you so.
It's Chicken's worst nightmare, but in this case, his best nightmare.
Yeah.
January comes along. The mount leaves the shop January 6th. January 1st hits. New trading post. The reward for filling out your traveler's log. Gilded Brutosaur.
No, they would never do that.
That would be the worst. Think about how angry people would be. Think about how angry people would be that just were like, I just dropped like 3 million gold to buy this mount.
Dude, people would legit quit the game.
Yep. People, that's the worst.
I don't see them. I don't see them doing that. Yeah. I think this is one of those things where it's just gonna be like this is gonna be the one and only. Like if you get this, you're like one of those, because they'll never release the original Brutosaurus. They might release something similar to this, but like when you're just talking about it, I think there's a couple things that have changed. The auction house is now in every major expansion city.
Oh, and by the way, it's worth noting, at that point they did not put the auction house in. They didn't. Major cities. No, you always had to go back to Stormwind or Orgrimmar for the auction house.
Yes, but now you don't. It's always it was in Valdrakken. Now it's in Dornegal. So
and players are going to want to hub in Dornegal regardless, right? Like like very few people are going like, well, I have the Brutosaur now, so I'm just going to go camp out in the middle of Hellfire Peninsula, right? Like,
you're right, yeah.
Right, Dornegal is such a convenient way to get to pretty much anything you need to get to in the new zone. Maybe somebody's going to be like, oh, I'm going to go hang out in Hallowfall because Hallowfall is cool. All right, whatever. Like,
sure,
people are still there. People will see you. It'll look more populated. Great, and that's not a problem. So I don't think it really causes. I don't think it really causes any problems.
I don't think it does. And to be honest, I'm not happy with the price. I wish it was like, for me, I struggle to spend more than like $50 on anything.
Yeah, I think 60, probably 50, 60, maybe 40. Right, that 40 to 60 range is probably where it should have been. I get the argument too. We made it of like, well, it was like $350 if you were to get the original one. But again, that was because the gold cost was high and people are just too impulsive not to buy tokens.
So we'll see. I'm not sold on the fact that I won't get it, but I'm most likely not going to get it.
Yeah, that makes sense. It is convenient. Though. Is it worth the convenience? I couldn't tell you, but I think it's cool. And I didn't want to I was afraid of hitting FOMO. A point. Yeah, FOMO of like a year from now, 2 years from now, being like, dang it, I never got that mount. Every time I'm in raid and like everybody else hops on there, I'm like, no.
Yeah, there's a couple mounts like that, but not one that I want to spend $90 on. So
no,
we'll see.
I totally get that. I wouldn't be too angry though if like the original Brutosaur came back at some point and was like 2 million gold or something. 3 mil, right? 2 mil, 3 mil.
I think that's a fair price.
That wouldn't be too crazy, and just have that come back. That way, then players don't feel like, oh, I didn't buy that one thing in the shop. Now I'll never have like the convenience of the auction house, right?
No, I agree, and we're starting to get a little bogged up on this topic. So
let's talk about. Before we change it, I want to say though, like there are a lot of people right now, like Bellular is a great example where he is just ranting nonstop on social media, like X, making videos about it, how terrible this is, and how angry the developers must be, and the developers must be. But just the conversation you had right now with me, I really do feel like there's a good shot the developers looked at the design of WoW right now and went, no, this isn't a problem anymore. Like this does not, like, because before people would have, like, let's say it came out in Shadowlands, right? Because that was when I skipped BFA, so I skipped BFA. Yes. So let's say in Shadowlands it came out, right? And there's no auction house. Right? Like, there's no reason for anybody to ever go back to Stormwind. They would just sit in Orbos all day long, right? Which I think Blizzard kind of realized, like, why the heck do we keep sending them back to Stormwind and Orgrimmar?
Yeah.
Right. Like, why not just give them the auction house here in the cool new city? And that to me that's fine. That's okay. I think Storm and Orgrimmar are cool because they have representation of what Warcraft is and what it's about and the world that's built. But at the same time, that's not the way the game's played at this moment. And so having a mount that lets you do the same thing you can already do, but just not walking into a building, whatever.
Yeah, it's. I mean, if that's something that you want to spend money on, do it. If it's not, then you're probably fine. Like I don't think you're gonna miss out on anything. So and you have until January 6th to do it. So
yep.
If you don't want to do it right now, you can sure wait.
Absolutely. So where are we going next?
Let's just touch quickly on Black Rocks because I didn't do it and you did it. So what did you think? Did you think too hard, too easy, a good medium? What's your thought?
Yeah, so I mean, we went through Blackrock Depths on normal mode. So obviously we just like we sped through it, cleared the whole thing in like under an hour. Which was nice. Got a lot of loot. I replaced pretty much everything on my character with the gear I got from Blackrock. So it was nice. I liked it. Yeah. Yeah, no, my DK right now is all Blackrock gear.
No,
from
stop.
normal? Yeah, from normal. Because it drops Myth Track.
Okay.
That was a really long pause right there.
That was...
No, I'm messing with you, dude. Of course. Okay, so we run into normal. Let me give perspective on this. We're doing with our guildies. The group is about split 50-50. Half of it is like our heroic raiders who are currently progging heroic, and then half of it is like alts that are kind of undergeared or just other players that aren't very raid experienced or undergeared. Because again, it's one of those anniversary event type things. So our guild was kind of treating it as just like a more casual experience. We go into normal. We wiped probably like 3 times on the first boss before we got them down. Okay, cool, whatever. We get to the second boss. I think we cleared the second boss on our first try. Awesome. Continue moving forward. Perfect. We get to the third boss. I think we did like 6 pulls on the third boss and realized we are not going to kill this thing. Like, we just cannot kill. This is not dying. This is not dying. Nope. So it turns out Blackrock Depths was way overtuned. Like, massively overtuned. I was watching like maximum rating heroic with like either his guild or another guild or something, and they were struggling on heroic, like hard struggling. So it was way overtuned. Blizzard I think sent out some nerfs this week. I haven't done it since it was nerfed, but it was massively nerfed. Actually nerfed to the point where reading through the logs, I was like, oh gosh, I hope it's still difficult though. Or like, I want some challenge. I want it to be, it's supposed to be, according to Blizzard, it's supposed to be on par with a like how raiding is normally, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to say normal raid, but like how raiding is normally. And so it should be on par with the current raid tier that we have. So normal should be equal to the normal raid that we have right now. Heroic should be equal to the heroic raid we have right now. I can never remember the name of the raids. Like, is it Naru Palace or something?
Nerubia Palace or something?
Yeah, something like that. But I think it's Naru Palace, if I remember correctly. However, it was definitely way harder. It was definitely way harder. So from what I heard, it's good now. Last I heard, I don't know if it's too easy. I don't know if it's still a little on the difficult side. I have not been in it since then.
I guess we'll find out.
If you need mastery gear, so like, hey, you're an elemental shaman, and they just totally reworked how your entire spec plays.
Yeah, right.
I would not do Blackrock Depths. If I recall correctly from things I've looked at and gear I've been looking at, because mastery was not really a stat at that time, there's no mastery gear at all. There's not. It doesn't exist. No mastery gear. Because it's all reworked. It's all reworked gear based on what was originally dropped in there. Yeah. For better or for worse. For better or worse, it's the same.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, yeah, so what I'm hearing is way too difficult, but now you're worried that it's going to be way too easy.
Yeah.
And hey, I mean, but the problem is I feel like that's kind of on par with that like standard kind of like anniversary like mid-tier content, because they want it to be available for more generic players, right? If they make a 20th anniversary, celebration, and there's like a big part of it like, hey, we're gonna re-release this raid and like tune it, and then your standard non-raiders like, oh, I want to try that, and they get in it and they're just like getting tossed around like a rag doll. Like, they're going to be like, yeah, well, now I feel like I'm not. And maybe that's a bigger issue, but at the same time, like I feel like generally with those kind of events, they want to make everything geared that like your average player that might not do the hardest content can do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Now in this case, it's interesting because you do have a normal version of it, right? And so to me, normal version is a difficulty which I think most players should be able to do normal. If you can't do normal raid, like if normal raid is too hard for you, let's
You're
talk.
Trash.
Well, no, I'm not gonna say that. But you're definitely missing some concepts and some things that would help you enjoy the game significantly more. You don't need to be doing heroic. You don't need to be doing mythic for sure. But but normal should be at a level that anybody can grasp, and not because it's too easy, but because I think anybody is capable of doing it if they really put thought into it. However, to your point though about it needing for everybody to join, I actually don't. I think in this case is one of the rare moments where that's not. I don't think that matters. Okay. And the reason why I say that is because I believe we have original Alterac Valley back or something during the anniversary event for PvPers.
No idea what that is.
We have that entire area set up in Tenaris, right, for the anniversary event. Yeah. For all of our kind of like just world questers and stuff, and looking at the shops and everything there. Yeah. We have the raid, right? So that's an option. We have nonstop time walking going on with classic time walking dungeons.
That's true.
Being added, which is kind of dope. We have that Chromie event, which kind of sucks, by the way. I don't like that.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
But again, though, the person you're describing might very much love the Chromie event and hate raiding,
that's
right?
True.
And so the Chromie event doesn't have to be good for me if it's good for other people. And so I think this anniversary, they're trying to have something for everybody, something for raiders, something for dungeon runners, something for PvP, something for world questing, something for like story kind of experiential things. So they are really actually trying to get a lot in there, which is cool.
Which is good, yeah. So I think overall, I haven't done the questing or anything, but I think it's a decent event. Mm-hmm. I think there's, I don't know, I have like a little weird like, what's the word I'm trying to look for? A little weird like sentimental thing for like little things like this. I like to try them once, but I just haven't gotten around to it this time.
I really haven't either, but I do want to. I've just been busy, man. I need to take some days off work and just relax.
Take some days off work, run some WoW like a nerd.
That's what I do, man. That's what all my time off work goes into.
This guy taking off work to
Dude,
play
so
WoW.
You got a hot take? You got a hot take on the show notes?
Yeah, I mean, we can. What do you think? You want to save that for next week and try to do, because we did have your hot take.
My pseudo hot take. Sorry. Yeah, why don't we save that for next week? I'm actually gonna say what your hot take is. I want people to anticipate it next week. By the way, this is Chickens. I'm just reading it off the list. But he's asking, will WoW ever be a free-to-play game? This is one, by the way, I could talk about for a long time.
I know you could, dude. Oh, my goodness.
And so,
you could talk for days.
Yeah, it's one of those questions where I think there's the thing that I want and the thing that I know is better, right? And those two are like differing things. And so that'll be a fun conversation. So make sure you guys come back next week for next week's episode. But we're not done yet. We're not done yet for today. We're just gonna shelve that specific topic for next week.
Yeah. So I think that'll be a good one, because I think there's a lot to talk about in that. Mm-hmm. Just because, is WoW ever going to be? I think we've seen a recent change in how gaming has been. I mean, there's not very many games that you have to pay for anymore. There's a lot of games that have gone the free to play route and have tried to just make money through, various shops and in-game content, and I think it's worked really well. And I don't know.
I mean, ultimately, right? No game is free to play. So the question is, how do they make their money, right? Yeah.
Wow. Oh, yeah. I see what you're saying. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I was gonna say I might have to disagree with you on a little bit, but you're right. There isn't a game where it's like, hey, you can literally get everything in it for free. Like, there's no like paywall or anything like that. Yeah, you're right.
Or if there is, and again, we should save this for next week, but if there is a way for you to get everything in the game, it's done so in a way that requires such an excessive amount of grinding that you're only gonna get one or two of those things you want. You're not gonna get close to all of it.
Yeah, because I guess technically, and we can save that.
Like a gotcha game or something. But yeah, we can save that. So
I was gonna say,
where do you want to go next,
WoW
though?
is free to play.
Yeah, technically.
So we've been talking about doing this for a long time, and we want to just do a tier list and talk about what we think is the best dungeon out of this current M+ season. And to be honest, there's two things here. We've talked about trying to bring this podcast to like a more YouTube format, as well as doing the all audio content. And maybe this is like a good kind of gateway into that to see how it goes. But then, we like talking about M+. I feel like that's the majority of the things we talk about. And I think we have a good grasp. We're far enough into the season that we can judge all the 8 dungeons pretty fairly.
Yeah.
And I'm just in a point where I don't know. I kind of like this style of like podcasting where it's like, hey, I don't want to call this like a game, but it's kind of like a mini game, right?
Yeah.
Like we're doing like generic stuff. So if you don't have anything to say, I think we'll get right into it.
Awesome, I'm ready.
So we're just gonna go in order by actually let's start with the War Within dungeons. So let's start with Arakara, and then how about this one I'll go first, and then you can kind of sub in, and then we'll rotate off. You can start the first one on the next one. So Arakara, I ran a lot of this at the beginning because I was really trying to farm the sack, the ever coveted sack that everyone wants, and to me, I just think this dungeon is as mid as it gets. Like,
it's B, 100% B.
There's nothing in this dungeon that stands out to me as just, hey, like this is a fun mechanic.
Yep.
This is a fun boss fight. This is like a cool, like, scenic view or like scenic part of the dungeon.
Yeah.
But then there's nothing that's like, hey, this is really bad.
Yeah. By the way, just to clarify, because again, people can't see. They're not looking at the tier list. So, we're ranking. I believe from what I saw, you had sent me, it's S, A, B, C, D. So S tier, A tier, B, C. So no F tier, right?
No, there is no F tier. And I mean, we can sub out D for F if you want. But
let's sub out D for F. I want to sub out D for F.
You want to sub out D for F?
Okay, D's not good enough. I have vitriol for one of these dungeons, so D's not good enough.
Oh gosh, you're gonna throw a dungeon in F tier?
No, it's not even F tier. It's just trash tier. Can we call it trash tier? Trash tier. Yeah.
Crash tier. Oh my goodness. Tier. And then what? S is just God tier.
Yeah. S tier. S plus tier.
Oh my goodness. I think it's kind of weird, but I think we might agree on which dungeon is going to go in that God tier.
Everybody agrees on which dungeon goes in there because it's good. It's a good dungeon.
Right. Oh my goodness. So you're in agreement B with Arakara?
Yeah. It's very mid. The problem with Arakara is, by the way, people like Arakara. But they like Arakara. They like Arakara because it's easy enough, right? It's simple enough.
Yeah.
And so it's a quick run. You get in, you get out, you get your loot. I do remember on beta, I have this weird, because I beta tested all these dungeons. Leading into the expansion launch, and so like some of these dungeons were like easy on beta and super hard now, or some of them were wicked difficult on beta and like easy now. Arakara was so stupid, especially the last boss, because the mechanics on the last boss overlapped so bad that like you just couldn't handle that. Like if you got unlucky with how they overlapped, you were just screwed. But they seem to have initiated some sort of tech into the system between beta and launch that like prevents abilities from stacking even more so than they were in the past. And so Arakara, I think, has become way more manageable. So Arakara is a great dungeon in terms of like it's easy, mechanics are simple to learn. There's only 3 bosses. It's pretty quick to go through. Where it falls, though, is Arakara is just like not memorable.
No, it's not. It really isn't.
Yeah, like locationally, you're like, oh, cool. We're underground spiderwebs.
Yeah.
It's not really memorable. Bosses are kind of cool, sort of. They have interesting mechanics. Give them credit. The bosses all have very interesting mechanics. The bosses, I think the bosses are the best part about the dungeon by far. It's just not memorable though. It's just not very memorable.
No, I think
Kinda
everything
boring.
you said verbally makes it in the tier.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it's just not good.
Yeah.
It really isn't. And well, it just doesn't stand out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah. So
Alright.
enough on our car. We're gonna move to City of Threads. We're gonna, like I said, get through the time or the War Within. I keep wanna every time I see TTW, I'm like, oh, Time Walking. No, it's the War Within.
No, War Within, yeah.
So we'll go on to City of Threads. What do you think?
I'm if I were to pick, I actually think City of Threads sits around A tier. Now I haven't done it on like super high levels, but I like City of Threads. It gives me that Tazavesh City or Court of Stars kind of vibes, right? So Tazavesh, whatever the market one was, I don't remember what that one was called. But anyways, the Tazavesh and Court of Stars, it gives me that kind of vibe. Feels a little bit more polished than either of those did. I think it's a very fun dungeon. You have to chase down those guys, which usually in M plus is annoying because everybody's like, dang it, this is like so random on our timer. However, you and I aren't running 15, so a few extra seconds to find a ghost isn't going to kill us, and they're relatively simple to deal with. I don't think it's crazy difficult. They pop up quickly. There's only a few spots that they'll actually even show up. I think they limited how many spots they'll even show up in just to make sure everybody knows the general places to check as soon as they go in.
Yeah.
I think the idea was the first couple times you do it, it should be a surprise and mystery, but then after that, it should be pretty quick.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think it does belong in A tier, and basically because of what you said, and at the same time, like the boss fights aren't just like rinse and repeat almost. Like to me, and part of like, and I'm thinking of like Arakara is just like, oh hey, just slap the boss and kill it. Where like in City of Threads, like, the first boss, you got really tight closeness, you got to stay basically right on top of each other the whole entire time, and as well as dodging mechanics. And then, the third boss is obviously like a big one that people talk about when it comes to wiping and stuff like that. And I think it has the aesthetic of Arakara. Like it just has the neatness and like the cool design. It just takes Arakara and just like steps it up one tier.
And it's so much more memorable, right? Like I think difficulty wise, I think they're probably about the same difficulty wise.
Yeah.
However, I think City of Threads is just more memorable. Like
it is.
2 years from now, 3 years from now, we'll be talking about like City of Threads, like, oh yeah, City of Threads was cool. And then we'll be like, oh yeah, I forgot Arakara was there.
Right. Yeah.
Also, small theory here. I think they messed up the names, and I think they just ran with it. Right. I think Arakara City of Threads. I think they were supposed to both be Arakara City of blank. Right.
Okay.
I don't get why one is called Arakara City of Echoes and the other one's just called City of Threads when both of them are in Arakara. Right. That doesn't make sense to me. Secondly, City of Threads is the like above area. But I think City of Threads should have been the one that's underground with all the webs everywhere, right? Like you're literally running across webs. There's webs everywhere. You're living on webs. It's very, 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 very spider focused. City of Echoes is more spy kind of theme. You're trying to sneak around, figure out where the whispers are coming from, figure out who has the gossip, right? Like trying to navigate. That feels way more like a City of Echoes type of thing.
Yeah, it does.
Now, it's possible that they're like, no, City of Echoes is like the old city, and they're trying to, it's memories. But I don't think, that doesn't really make sense to me. So I think they got the names backwards. That's my theory. They got the names backwards, and they just have to live with it.
So real quick, is this supposed to be like a like multi-dungeon, like a what is the word for it? A mega dungeon?
No.
Is it?
No, they're just, but they're just they both take place in Arakara.
Okay, I thought like that was the first time I've ever heard that, and I know that they both take place in our car, but now I'm like, wait, when you said lower and like you kind of implied upper, I was like, oh wait, is that technically considered like a mega dungeon? But you're right, it's kind of parsed differently.
Yeah, so. but at the same time though, like you could tell there's a link between them.
Yeah,
I mean it's all taking place in Ashket, so like whatevs. Anyways, what's our next dungeon?
I'm gonna do Stone Vault next because. Okay. I'm just gonna throw in Stone Vault. I think Stone Vault is very similar to Arakara, just in terms of just like I don't want to call it vanilla, but it's very much just like go in, slap bosses and do things. I think the one fight with the council fight is like a little bit tough. It takes a little more coordinating, but I think for the majority, and the last fight can be kind of difficult, if you have like a struggling group. But for the most part, this dungeon again just feels like just kind of cut and dry, very much just go in, slap bosses, kill things, win loot, right?
Yep.
And I almost want to put it in C tier, but I think I have to put it in low B based on what I did with Arakara. But what do you think?
Yeah, so Stone Vault is a funny dungeon because when you're looking at it like lower keys, it's not that bad. It's not bad at all.
No,
People love Stone Vault. It's easy to run. You go in, you get it's fast enough, right?
Yeah.
However, when you start running higher keys, Stone Vault becomes like the hardest of the dungeons.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty quickly. The fights, especially around like boss fights, right? So
yeah, dude.
I think every boss except the first boss is like a problem in high keys. Every single one is a problem.
That's not a surprise,
right? So the council fight is stupid.
Yeah, it is.
The fight with the purple thing, I can't remember the name, the bluish purple void thing. The shield, the shield on that gets kind of busted, right? And how the rotations work. The last guy, I don't know. So I'm yawning. The last guy is difficult, but I don't really know why. I always find that fight easy. So maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm the weird one. However, running it on higher, I think I've done 8s, maybe 9s. Maybe I've done 9s with Stonefall. I have to check.
Okay.
I don't hate it. I like it. B tier feels fine. It feels like it's tuned too hard. I actually don't really dislike the dungeon though. I think a lot of people might put it in C. I just personally don't hate it. I will say, though, I was kind of ticked off the other day. I was in a group running, and so we go in. I'm trying to remember what it was. I think it was a 10. I think it was a 10. I go in on a plus 10 into Stone Vault. We get to the first boss, and the boss just destroys me. Like, I'm using every defensive I have, dude. Like, every defensive. And so I survived the Tank Buster, I think, like 5 times. I survived the Tank Buster 4 times, maybe 5.
Sure.
And finally, the Tank Buster's coming out again. I have just no more defensives, and I'm using multiple defensives every time to try and survive this thing. And I get wrecked. And the healer just goes, "Oh, I don't think the tank can survive this fight," and leaves.
Yep, that sounds about right.
Sounds about right, right? And I was ticked off. You know why I was ticked off though? Because I know that fight, and maybe I ranted about this on the podcast last week. I don't remember.
Yeah, you totally did.
I did. Yeah, probably. I'm still annoyed about it.
You're still upset about it.
He wasn't doing the mechanic. It wasn't even me. He has to dispel me before the Tank Buster hits. I can't do that. I ain't got to dispel. I'm not capable of it. It's on him. But anyway, so I was annoyed. I don't mind Stone Vault and B because I don't really hate it. Some of the bosses get really wild, but in the key range I run, and again though, that's where you and I have a different perspective than maybe like
that's true.
If you're watching like Growl or Dorky make a tier list, right? They're like, okay, well, what feels best at that 14, 15 key or 12?
Yeah, right.
And you and I go like, okay, but what about players who just want their portals or just try to push KSM, right?
Or just push KSM or just try it. Like they're just like, hey, I want to get an M+, you know?
Yeah, like the average player, not the 0.1%. Or whatever title range is, but just the average key runner. What are they experiencing? And I think we get to kind of create a tier list that better reflects that. What we got next on our list?
I agree. Yeah, I think this is the one that you're most hyped to talk about, and why I let you take it is it's Dawnbreaker. What do you think?
Oh, dude, I love Dawnbreaker. Oh my gosh,
I know you do.
Listen, if it wasn't for everybody else, Dawnbreaker would be S tier for me. If it wasn't,
oh my god,
like I would put Dawnbreaker in S tier happily. I would happily. There's 2 reasons why Dawnbreaker I can't, in good conscience, put in S tier. One, I'm well aware that it's not everyone else's favorite dungeon, right? And I have to recognize that. I have to recognize that, like, just because I absurdly love something doesn't mean I can rank it high on the tier list, right?
Yeah, that's fair.
So that's number 1. Number 2, though, and this is important, is Dawnbreaker is still kind of wildly buggy. And so you'll go in and stuff is just absolutely broken in the worst way, right? Like I've gone in and I've not had the side ships show up before, right? And so like
really,
yeah, I'm just like like that mechanic comes and I'm just standing there I'm like, guys, I don't see any. There's no ships over there. What the heck? Or I don't think it was me. I don't think I had that, but I had people in my group with that problem. I think Zari had it when we ran that one time. And they had to like leave the dungeon and come back. And it's like a pain in the butt to leave and come back, right?
Yeah,
they
it
had to
is.
leave the dungeon, come back, and then it was fixed. One time I go in, and this one happened to me. We that first pack, I guess it's 2 packs, but I always pull them together. So that first pack, we clear that. We run up the stairs out on the boat, and there's no boat.
Oh my gosh!
Now everybody else sees it. Everybody else keeps running forward, and I just see him standing on air.
Yeah.
And I see nothing. And I'm like, you know what? It's probably just me. I'm probably just having a visual bug. So I go to walk onto the invisible boat, and I fall right through.
Oh no!
I was like, what the heck? And so I was like, guys, I can't see the boat. I had to like leave the dungeon and come back.
Yeah,
and so
that's rough.
It's the bugginess is probably a problem. Some of the ways that movement based attacks, like spells that go out and maybe hold still, or some of the affixes act weird on the boat. But again, though, I'll forgive that because I want Blizzard to try things. I want Blizzard to experiment.
Yeah, no, I do.
And I think the boss fights are super cool in Dawnbreaker. I love flying on that first boss. I think there's something so cool.
It's neat.
Like you're like, oh, let me fly. And I mean, right now it kind of feels mundane. Like, oh, let me just go fly outside the bomb. But when the first few times I did it, I was like, whoa, I'm literally soaring away from this explosive. That's so freaking cool. And then I like that it has dragon riding in the dungeon for location, but it doesn't feel overwhelming. It's not like Onaran Plains where you're like, well, let me go for a ride and take an hour to fly to the next spot. You're just doing like little hops over to where you want to go, which
it's not anything crazy.
Yeah, that feels really good because then even the average player can go fast, right?
Yeah.
And
I agree.
The second boss is an interesting fight because you kind of learn it through the general, so you learn all his mechanics one by one and then do the fight.
Yeah.
The third boss is really cool. It kind of preps you for the raid. But at the same time, it's just an interesting mechanic. It's a fun fight.
It is.
And overall, and by the way, the flying part, if you have trouble with the flying part on the third boss, jump on our Discord and I'll teach you how to do it really fast. It's easy. There's shortcuts to it. And the aesthetic of the whole dungeon is really cool. So Dawnbreaker would be S tier for me if it wasn't for the frequent bugs that happen. And the fact that I just know it's lower on a lot of other people's lists, and I do want to respect that maybe I'm just weird a little bit. So yeah.
No, I think it's a good dungeon, and I think we're both gonna agree that it probably belongs in an A tier.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's what, and you touched on it a little bit. I think it's what they wanted. Oh my goodness, No Coup Defense to be like last expansion. I think that's what they wanted that dungeon to feel like, and then they took it and made it what it should have been, where the dragon flying between bosses is not as bad, and it incorporates dragon flying into the boss fights. I personally think it's easy A tier, and I think you're right. I think it would go up to S tier if we're just talking about the War Within dungeons, and if it wasn't buggy, but I think there's one that kind of beats it out.
Yeah. And by the way,
and why?
If you asked me last expansion, hey, do you want another dragon riding dungeon? I'd be like, heck no.
Yeah.
If you ask me now, hey, do you want another dragon riding dungeon in the next expansion? I'd be like, yeah, give me another one.
Yeah.
Like,
oh my goodness.
Yeah, right. Like, yeah, of course, sure. So it is fascinating how that changes. Are we doing the S tier one now?
Yeah. No. Well, I feel like you kind of gave it away.
I don't know.
Okay. Out of the 4 dungeons that are left, we can.
Yeah.
Do you think I should save it for last? Do you think I know what it is?
We could do first. We can get it out of the way. Or we can do my least favorite one. I have like one in S tier and one trash tier. I would put it in like mega trash tier if I could. I would just go burn it if I was able to.
I think we agree on probably what the S tier and the trash tier are, but let me hear what your trash tier is.
I think it actually might surprise you. You might be thinking. I think you're thinking I'm going to say Siege, but actually. It's Mists of Tyrannus Scythe. I hate Mists of Tyrannus Scythe. It's trash.
No, you don't.
No, I'm kidding. No, it's Grim Batol, dude. Freaking Grim Batol, bro. That dungeon's garbage. Garbage.
Really?
Yeah, and I think I remember when I did beta and I was running Grim Batol, I was like, oh, this isn't too bad. Like, this whatevs.
Yeah.
And I hated Siege on beta. On beta, I was like, oh, Siege. Siege, I think as a tank, I really dislike the first few pulls before you get to the boss. Like the pulls before the first boss in Siege are just kind of stupid. After that, it's all fine. It's kind of stupid because like placement on some stuff is really weird, and you just every group I'm in overpulls too much. But once you get past that, it's manageable. If people know mechanics, it's not too bad. The fights are interesting. Learning how to do that last boss is important. If you have a group that's trying to do the final boss the same way they did it in BFA, you're gonna wipe. It does not work. Pro tip, go after the tentacle that's not holding the guy first. I think back in BFA, the tank could just solo that, and you would go after the tentacle holding the guy that save a little bit of time. Not worth it now. Not worth it now.
Okay.
But we're not talking about Siege. We're talking about Grim Batol. And
Grim Batol.
And Grim Batol is... It's just... The problem with Grim Batol is it suffers from just like random overtuning in multiple different areas.
Goodness, yeah.
Right? So, like, for example, the first boss of Grim Batol is great. I think everything leading up to the first boss of Grim Batol is fine. The second boss is a lot of fun. I think he's a fun boss, right? So you get the first two bosses down, and you're like, this was fun. Like, I actually had a good time in the dungeon. You got to fly on dragons and burn stuff, and that's cool. And then you go fight a boss that has, like, field control, and that's fun. And then you run into the next room. You have to kind of, like, subtly clear the room as much as you can without, like, aggroing the boss onto you as well.
Yeah.
And then you fight the boss, and he puts stuff all over the floor, and you're constantly kiting him. That's cool. And then you go through the ogres. And the moment you get to the ogres, you realize this might not be what I thought it was. First of all, if you pull any ogres at all, like, it's the worst. When you go through that one area and you have, like, the casters, and they're just, like, brutal. You get past the ogres.
Yeah, they're rough.
You make it. You had a few players who fall off the edge or just die because they pulled too much. Or your tank's dead because, like, a mage, like, walked to the left and pulled three things by accident. Which has happened to me multiple times tanking in there.
Yep. Boss
number 3 is where you realize, like... By the way, like, if they like, fixed the third boss and made him easier... Grim Batol would bump up like a lot. Like Grim Batol would bump up a lot. The problem is if you have a dungeon where like one boss just hard stops every run.
Oh yeah, it's garbage.
I can't do it. I mean, don't worry. The trash has its own problems. Also, the run back. The run back is
the run back is awful.
The run back. Oh my gosh, the run back. Blizzard needs to decide, like, are they like, I don't like. Have you had to deal with the 15-second timer at all yet in the keys that you're doing?
The 15-second?
I think it's +7s or higher, maybe +8 or something. It adds 15 seconds every time you die. Oh, maybe it's I don't remember what level it is. It's something, but it adds, instead of 5 seconds, it's 15 seconds when you die. It takes off the timer.
Yeah. I've seen that.
Yeah. So they need to decide, are they going to do the 15-second punishment thing, or are they going to, like, make us run back? I don't think it can be both, right? Like, I don't think it can be both. And so, like, Grim Batol, you die, and then you're just running forever.
Yeah, right.
For freaking ever. And so that's a major drain on your time. And then the third boss, the last boss isn't terrible. He's not my favorite fight. But it's doable. However, that third boss is just really rough. I don't know if I've ever really one-shot that third boss on a higher key. Maybe I hate it because I struggle in that dungeon. But then again, as a tank, I'm just watching it all happen. I'm like, I don't know. I mean, there's a corner you can tank him in that makes it a little bit easier. But even still, why do I have to hold a boss, like, in a, like, specific pixel of the map to make it doable?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, Grim Batol just overall is it's just so tight. Like, everything's so tight. And if you move, like you mentioned, like, you know, mage moves 2 inches and every, you know, it's a wipe basically.
Yep.
And then the second boss is just like, how are you even going to do that? Like, yeah, I think going into it, I think Siege belonged in the trash tier. But now that you're saying all this stuff out loud, I think I'm almost agreeing with you that Grim Batol might take the trash tier.
Yep.
I think I 100% agree with you. So.
I think if you had asked me week one, I think I might have said Siege. Week 1, I might have said Siege.
Yeah.
But Siege has grown on me. I think I've gotten better at it. The better I've gotten at Siege, the less I hate it. I don't think Siege is great. I think Siege is like C tier.
Yeah, that's where I'm kind of thinking.
Right, I'm thinking C tier for Siege. I think there's things that could make Siege better. Siege is just long. It's a long dungeon.
It is long. Oh my gosh.
Every time you think you're getting near the end, you're like, oh wait, that's right.
Oh
There's like 2 more bosses in the whole like 3 hallways, right?
And a whole like mess of trash. Yeah, dude. Oh my gosh.
It's stupid. Look, I mean, it's just dumb. It's just dumb. But at the same time, though, the vibes in Siege are cool.
Oh,
I like
dude, the aesthetic is cool. Like
aesthetic is cool.
The storyline, like everything behind, like, hey, why is this dungeon happening? I think is like on point. Like it's the concept is really cool. It just the overall experience sucks.
Yes.
Like, like I think you hit it on the head. And I think this is controversial. The last fight is awful. Like I hate the last fight.
The last fight's terrible.
I
don't think anybody will disagree with you. Last fight's stupid.
Like I think people will be like, "Oh, like it's unique, it's a cool concept." No, it's garbage. It's awful.
Also, that first fight is a pain in the butt.
Oh yeah, the first fight's almost just as bad. Yeah,
especially if you're like group really. Like, how many times have you run it with people who don't know what they're doing in there? Because it's not intuitive. That is not an intuitive fight.
Like no, it's not. It's basically just go in and slap. But there is like one key mechanic. If you screw it up, then well.
Yeah. Now, if you know the fight, it's not terrible. But if you don't know the fight, you're like you need somebody to explain it to you. Like you're
my goodness,
you're not just thinking about it. I mean, if you did it 30 times, you'd figure it out. But like if you're trying to figure out like on the fly on your first pull, you're not figuring out on the fly on your first pull. Not happening. Not happening. It's not like I think a great example would be like first boss of Grim Batol. As much as I hate Grim Batol, first boss of Grim Batol, you get in there and you're like, I just have to move out. I have to move out of the way of crap, right? Like, pretty simple, pretty straightforward.
Like it's neat.
Yeah. Although on the other hand, there is something nice about being like, hey, the first boss is really hard, so that way you'll know if your group is worth following through for the next hour, right?
That's fair.
Okay, so we're gonna keep moving forward because I think we're a chunky bit over time. So
well, we can stick Siege at sea. That's why I'm kind of agreeing with you. So let's do Necrotic first, and then we'll do Mist.
Okay, I feel like you and I might differ on Necrotic, maybe, even though we've agreed, I think, on everything so far. What are you thinking on Necrotic?
I honestly think I'm kind of in between, and I think it needs to go either bottom A or top of B.
Okay.
Because I think Necrotic's good. I think it is. I think it does suffer from the run of the mill standard dungeon, but I think there is a couple things that throw in there that make it different. The ancient weapons that you can pick up to do extra boss damage. The third boss, whether you love it or hate it, you have to admit it is a fun fight. It is very fun.
I hate that fight.
If you hate it,
I hate it so much.
But you have to admit that it is at least fun. If you have a good group that can really execute the fight right, once you finish it, you're like, that was satisfying. If you can get the hooks right and you can just get them back down right after, and you're just like going through it really steadily, I think everyone will agree like that is a very satisfying fight if you can get it done right. But
I think
you disagree?
I think it depends. So, like, if I'm running in there, let's say I'm doing a +4. I'm doing a +4. We run in, we hook him, we bring him off. Right? We're talking about the third boss, Stitch Flesh, right?
Yes.
Hook him, bring him off the map. We slam him with a spear because you can't use the 3 anymore, right? So you hit him with 1 spear. Pop hero, and you burn him down, and you like just get him down. Maybe somebody secondary hooks him while he's still down, so he doesn't go up right away, and then you burn him down. That feels awesome. I love that.
Yes,
I love that. Then you get into hierarchies, where like 10's you're guaranteed fortified or tyrannical every single time.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
And that fight, that's fair. That fight is broken in the worst possible way. Like I talked about the Grim Batol dragon. I hate hating the Grim Batol dragon. Like I hate the Grim Batol dragon, but the Necrotic, that guy is like broken. The only difference is like I'm trying to find a way to phrase it. The Necrotic Wake one, if everything goes well, you're fine. And you can do it. But then there's like those moments where like he goes to throw his hook out, and all of a sudden the affix drops out and he grabs the affix instead.
Oh, that's fair.
Or he goes to throw his hook out, and like it hooked me from behind him. From behind him. and it hooks me.
Fair.
I'm like, what the heck?
It suffers from some Dawnbreaker.
Or a player misses one hook, right? And the problem right now is you can't really hold two of the A-bombs, right? Like you could before. So the moment the second A-bomb comes out, that's a wipe. The moment the second A-bomb comes out. Because if you have two A-bombs out, they're always going to hook each other. Every single time they'll hook each other. And it's the worst. And so that is like that fight is kind of broken. On higher keys, the second boss starts to become really difficult.
It does, yeah.
Well, let me phrase it right. I don't hate the second boss because I'm a DK.
Yeah,
I'm a blood
fair.
DK. Right?
I was gonna say. I was just about to say. Come on.
Like if you have a blood DK tank for that one specific fight, it's great. Now, granted, blood DKs also suffer on trash packs in that dungeon. Really bad.
Yeah.
Really bad on trash packs. However, on that second boss, you can A-bomb limb and just grab them all. You can Gorfine's Grasp and grab all the ads, or even just use your double death grips and then interrupt one, right, and bring them all in.
And just kite. Yeah.
So it's not nearly as bad. Like when I do it on my monk, I'm like, this fight is a pain.
Yeah, like that fight.
I'm trying to run around, spin kick, maybe use a Ring of Peace to knock one a little bit closer or something. None of the DPS are kicking. And then
oh my goodness, yeah.
I haven't had any problems with him myself, so this hasn't been an issue. But I've heard once you start pushing up higher than 10, that the last boss becomes absolutely brutal.
Ooh,
and there's a few things. Like one, like if you're an Aug Evoker, like doing the mechanic where you get sent down and have to go kill the guy is apparently stupidly difficult.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that.
Although a tip here, if you're like a night elf, or you have like invis or something, or stealth, or like a feigned death, if he targets you with the move that throws you down below and you don't want to do it, especially on night elves, just shadow meld and it'll go onto somebody else.
Oh my gosh!
Like, you can make your teammates go do it instead. If they ever add if they ever let more races be evokers, you can watch a previous podcast episode on how we discussed how that's possible.
Yeah.
But I think, what was that? Was that episode 1? Was that episode 1
that
where we discussed that?
Either 1 or 2.
I'm actually looking right now. Yeah, episode 1, more evoker races. You can go back. I don't think our podcast was as refined. But
refined.
I don't know if it's refined. I don't know if it's refined now either. We're going to look back in a while and be like, oh my gosh, his first 10 episodes were so bad. Before Liquid, the guild, sponsored us.
Oh my gosh.
But no, but anyways, I put it on my listing. I put Necrotic Wake B. I almost kind of put C, but I think I was being influenced a little bit too much by what I hear like other players struggling with in there too on like higher levels. Because I know in high keys it's a very hated dungeon. Yeah. But in what I do, it for the most part is usually fine. But when it goes bad, it's like I hate when things go bad and I'm like, that wasn't even my fault. Like, we didn't do anything wrong. The dungeon's just busted. Or like, oh, we missed one hook mechanic on the boss. That's a wipe.
That dungeon might just be the pinnacle of like, when it's good, it's really good, and when it's bad, it's very bad.
Yeah. Yep. And then the last one, I guess, doesn't really need much of an explanation. I don't know who would disagree with us. Dude, Mist of Tyrannus Scythe. Like, when I heard Mist of Tyrannus Scythe was coming back, I was so hyped. I was so excited. I told everybody, and people were like, what do you mean? Mist of Tyrannus Scythe was bad. I was like, what are you talking about, bro? Mist of Tyrannus Scythe was fun.
It's a good dungeon. Oh my goodness.
It has all the elements, right? It's got trash packs that you can stack easily, right? So good stacking on trash. It's got like little places that you can make. I love dungeons that let you decide what routes you want to go, right? Like kind of being a little creative, making changes on the fly, adjusting, right? It's got some of that going on. It's got boss fights that are honestly like mechanically interesting. The last fight is kind of stupid. The last fight's stupid.
The last fight is kind of like like a meatball, dude. I
would say the bosses are probably the weak point, if anything, of Mist of Tyrannus
Which is kind of surprising because the first two bosses are really good.
Yeah. First bosses are a lot of fun. Last boss, kind of stupid. But when I say stupid, I just mean in the sense of like, I think the mechanics are kind of sloppy feeling. If that makes sense. Yeah, like, it's not even. It just feels sloppy. It's just a sloppy feeling fight, which is whatever. It's whatever.
Yeah, Yeah, it's like the epitome of just like go and kill boss, dodge things, win, loot.
But also, I probably think about it as a tank because like it'll spawn ads all over the place that automatically start aggroing onto people, and I'm like, dude, that mob's like 40 meters away from me.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
or 80 meters, whatever's out of death grip range, right? But overall though, like it's a fun dungeon, and the trash is generally
it's
fun.
So fun.
There's like a couple mobs in like the opening to the first boss that are kind of scary as a tank. I usually bring a warlock to do that little warlock skip. Have you done that yet?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so it's been around since Shadowlands, but there's a spot that warlocks can put a gate down that literally just gates you through a wall.
Oh wow!
Yeah, like way through a wall. So you know, like that like little watery area you walk through.
Yeah,
you skip the entire thing.
Oh wow!
Yeah, you have to make up percent later. You have to make up percent, but kind of worth it because some of that trash is those big guys can be a pain when they're with the with the groups.
Wow, that's kind of crazy.
But dude, I love Mist. I'll run a Mist with anybody. Let me go do the maze.
And Mist is good.
I have like the add-on to do the maze, but also at the same time, I just find the maze fun. So I don't know, maybe I'm weird.
No,
although
it's a good dungeon.
I will admit that trash in the maze will hit hard on tanks.
Oh, it does.
It does something wild to tanks, but I still love that dungeon. It's S tier for me.
Dude,
S tier doesn't mean easy. Yeah, S tier doesn't mean easy. S tier just means that like when I screw up, it's my fault.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like
I agree.
And so I'm not saying it misses an easy dungeon. And when we say something's too hard, it just means like this is unreasonably difficult. This doesn't make sense why it's this difficult for the content. And it's not even like players doing it right. It's just these mechanics actually like aren't smooth mechanics.
Yeah, okay. No, I agree.
We are dude, we're gonna have a long podcast episode today, I think, if these numbers are right. So let's do our quick tips and wrap up there.
Are you sure you want to do the tips, or do you just want to?
We'll just do fast tips.
Fast tips? Well, my tip wasn't necessarily fast, but I'll go really fast and say, hey, you know how we were talking about Stone Vault and how we said it's a trash dungeon or it's a mid-tier dungeon. Yeah. I think part of the reason it's mid-tier is because the trash before the last boss is like terrible. Yeah. So I did this one time and it was really good. So how I've done it is when you go into the doorway with those first two bosses that charge, everyone stands in the middle of that room and they charge the bosses and the bosses just go. And then, or the trash just goes. So what I've done in that is I tell the DPS to stand on the other side of the threshold of the door on the opposite side of the trash. So when they charge, they're just charging like 2 feet. And it's not like it doesn't give you enough time to get out of the way. Yeah. And it's because that like when you're getting into like, I'm not even talking like high keys, like 8s, 9s, 10s, you know, when that trash, you know, barges out and you have to wait 3 or 4 or 5 seconds for it to come back, it does that 3 or 4 times. That's almost like a straight minute. Like,
yep, absolutely.
So my tip is just, I know it sucks, but for the last little trash pack there before you get to the last boss on Stone Vault, just try to be tight. Just really get tight with your group and don't allow those trash to charge really far because it adds time. It can be it can be a key killer at the end of the day.
Yeah. You're talking about the last 2 packs before the boss?
Yeah, the ones that have the knights that charge that
I usually just pull. Do you pull them both together, just one at a time?
No, both of them. Yeah.
Oh, I just do one at a time. That makes my life a little easier. But I also
both the packs.
Yeah.
Oh no! I do the pack separate, but still, I mean, when they charge,
no, it's a good bit of damage. All right, here's my tip of the day. My tip of the day is this: if you buy the Brutosaur mount on the store, you can save yourself time using the auction house, and you don't have to be seen in the auction house, which is quite an embarrassment now. So.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, make sure you pull that credit card out. All it takes is $90, and that's good tech. It's good tech, man. It's good tech. No, I would say, you know, it's worth noting. You brought this up to me earlier when I was trying to figure out my tip. I was running in from work today. But right, like you do have all that percentage right now for XP for leveling, right? So like. If you have 5 characters are at 100 or 80, you get that 25% Warband buff. 10% for the anniversary. There's another 10% you can get for the anniversary, like a reward for something that's temporary. You get 10% from Dark Moon. Is it Dark Moon this weekend or
I think it's
weekend?
next weekend.
That's fine. Dark Moon's coming up. You'll also then, I don't know if there's going to be much overlap on it, but you have Dark Moon, and you also have Hallow's End, which is another 10%.
Yep.
And then you have War Mode, which gives you 10% for like outdoor questing stuff. However, outdoor questing stuff, I think also applies if you're doing like time walking questing. So, right, and I believe time walking gives like, it goes back and forth. I don't know if it is right now, but usually time walking does give a good boost for XP.
It does, yeah.
So you're looking at a lot of free XP right now. If you want,
this is the time to level.
This is 100% the time. I think I gotta work on my shaman finally, get my shaman back up.
Yeah, dude, you need to get that shaman up there.
But that's everything this week with the Warband. Guys, thank you for listening to Chicken and I rant about WoW and dungeons and everything else. And if you want to talk more with us, if you want to ask questions, because we want to answer the questions you guys have. We want to talk about the things y'all are interested in. Jump on our Discord. There's a link down in the description. Jump on our Discord and ask us. It's in the Questions for the Pod channel. Go ask questions in there. We would love to answer them on future episodes. We love talking about this game. We love talking to you. And we will see you guys next week.
Yep. See you.